I think at the end of the day, cream twice a day versus a baby little injection once a day, from a compliance standpoint, it's about the same. You can put it on once a day, but twice a day is going to give more stability. Creams can be compounded at 20% testosterone. The strongest commercial is 5%. And then you've also got increased bioavailability. Beyond 20%, it comes out like
creams. What's your take on creams? I was on a podcast with Nico Mesla, who runs HRT University here in the US, and he's a big fan of creams. I'm curious about your take on creams and use cases and potential drawbacks to creams.
Huge fan of creams when they're compounded properly and when they're used right. So at my clinic here in Europe, because of the laws internationally with injections being way too difficult, we actually only offer cream. At Primal Zone in Australia, we offer both, and I think the ideal world is for practitioners to have injectables and cream in their toolbox. When it comes to cream, the most important thing about cream that people need to understand is that the 2%, 5% creams that are commercially available in pharmacies are trash. Some people will hyper respond to them and get a good result from them. Absolutely. But exceptions don't disprove rules. The problem is that the amount of cream you'd have to put on, it would be like when growing up in Australia, like in summer, like you have these memories of your parents just slathering you in sunscreen, and there's so much, it doesn't rub into the skin and it's gross. That's kind of how those creams work, because you have to use so much of it, and the bioavailability is very poor. It's very difficult to get a hormone, rub it on the skin, and get it into the blood. So when a cream is compounded, it's compounded in a base, and there's 4 good bases available, which is the HRT base, the liposomal base, also known as lipoderm, and then there's a Trevis, and there's a Versa base. And these all use slightly different, very advanced technologies. So for example, the liposomal one, they actually break open the liposome, put the testosterone molecule in there, seal it back up, and then it allows you to cross into the blood from the skin, which is fascinating. It turns out it was a very expensive machine for us to get. So when it comes to creams can be compounded at 20% testosterone. The strongest commercial is 5%. And then you've also got increased bioavailability. Beyond 20%, it comes out like sand. So 20% is kind of the max we've been able to work out how to get it to. So when you're using a cream, it's best to apply it to a shaved scrotum. It needs to be shaved because the hair will actually block the absorption. And the scrotal skin has a higher presence of the enzyme 5-alpha reductase, which is what converts testosterone into DHT. And it also is it's the thinnest skin on your body, so it absorbs better. Plus, transference is not an issue day to day unless you're rubbing your scrotum on people, which people don't typically. That's more of an issue probably. So transference risk is gone, better bioavailability, and better metabolism of the hormone. So the way that I teach people to use cream, and I've seen this play out so much, and I've seen other practitioners adopt this. So if you run a clinic, one of the challenges that you have is that you have a lot of people who are unhealthy starting TRT. Now, the problem with being hypogonadal for a long time is that it's terrible for your metabolic health, but humans are humans, and they tend to do self-sabotaging things that makes them feel better in the short term, which causes problems in the long term when they feel like garbage anyway. It's a human behavior.
If you've just started TRT, it is completely normal to feel overwhelmed and confused. There's a lot of new territory to cover, and there is a lot of conflicting information. I wrote TRT 101 so that you can have everything that you need to know in an instruction manual in one place that you can refer back to, that you can have all the questions answered before they even come up. TRT 101 is my best practice approach for TRT from start to finish, and it contains everything that you need to avoid all the challenges and pitfalls that I've seen come up in my clients over the last 5 years. You can check it out via the link below.
So a lot of the time when someone comes into a clinic, the first thing that you have to assess is to go, do you actually need this, or can you just fix the habits that are messing you up and then your suppression will resolve? But in the event that they need it, the problem is that poor state of health, maybe they've got 10 kilos of body fat to lose, maybe they need to build a routine with no alcohol, maybe they need to improve nutrition, maybe all those 3 things combined. Those factors lead the body, when you inject testosterone, to increase the production of aromatase, decrease the production of 5-alpha reductase, and you tend to have this inflammatory driven process where the hormones don't deliver the profile of balance, which allows them to make you feel the way you want to feel and get the benefits that you want to get. When it comes to cream, when men who are in this side effect camp of guys on injections, when they use cream, because much more of it converts into DHT, they tend to have the hormonal profile that a healthy, lean individual has, which allows their body to be healthier while they drop the body fat. So my standard approach is that when men are obese or they have metabolic syndrome, using a cream, even if they're like, oh, it's inconvenient, I don't like that, is going, well, use the cream until you drop the body fat, and then you can swap to injections if you want to. But a lot of guys who are healthy and do great with injections, they prefer to be on the cream because they feel better from the increased DHT expression, and they say that they feel the effects of the treatment more, plus they don't have to inject it. But ideally, it should be put on twice a day. You can put it on once a day, but twice a day is going to give more stability. I think at the end of the day, cream twice a day versus a baby little injection once a day, from a compliance standpoint, it's about the same. But a lot of guys will do better on the cream in terms of outcomes. And that's why I think that it should be a tool in the toolbox, and practitioners should have both available.
I was always a skeptic of creams. I've always used injectable, but I actually have some cream on its way because I want to try it. I've been on TRT for 10 years, never used creams, and I just continue to hear more compelling reasons why I should try that. I'll tell you, the biggest concern that I have is, you kind of joked about it, but I'm not rubbing my scrotum on everybody, but if I want to be intimate with my partner, I don't want her growing a beard either, right? And so what's the protocol? What's the concerns there?
Yeah, and it's a very good point. I was similar in terms of my journey. I mean, I was on injections for 6-7 years. When I moved over here to Eastern Europe, it was much easier to get cream. So I did cream for 1.5 years. And then recently I swapped back to injections because for me, I got the same levels, the same subjective outcome. Like, the only thing that was different was the application process for me. Everything else was the same. So I recently swapped back to injections to prove that point. But I often, when I'm working with guys who've been stable on it, because my general advice is pick one and get stable on that until your hypogonadism symptoms resolve. And then if you want to try the other one, try the other one. Going back to the Coke and Pepsi thing, if you love Coca-Cola, you should at least try Pepsi. Like, if you're going to drink a Coke, you shouldn't drink a Coke a day. But if you're going to drink a Coke a day for the rest of your life, try Pepsi. You might like it more. You can always swap back to Coke. So I have a lot of guys who are on one or the other, and they say, hey, I want to try the other one. And I go, absolutely. If you're going to do this for the rest of your life, try the other one for 6 months and see how you go with it. You can always swap back. And I've swapped a lot of guys from one to the other, and I've swapped a lot of guys to cream who've stayed on cream. I've swapped a lot of guys to injections who went back to cream. So I find that interesting. I also find it interesting that a lot of the practitioners who I work with use cream themselves. So I think that's also quite telling. So in terms of the transference, that's the big one. And, one thing that I speak to clients a lot about, because doing the health coaching thing, I spend more time talking to people about the more logistical side of things and the questions and concerns. And, if someone's like, hey, I sleep naked with my partner every night, and that's an important part of our intimacy, I go, look, that's an important thing to keep. The relationship is very important, and that's a contraindication. So that can be a factor. When it comes to sexual transference, I've seen some people who are very blasé about it. I'm always hyper conservative in my recommendations for things. So I've seen people say that after 30 minutes, no transference can occur. I think 2 hours is probably a better point to say this is going to be 100% fine. Anything before 2 hours, I just say, look, rinse off. I joked about this the other day. I said, no woman that I've ever met would ever complain if a guy said, hey, now I have to have a shower before we have sex every time. Like,
right.
Oh, no. Like, I don't get the sweaty balls. Like, oh.
Yeah, exactly.
So, if you put your cream on and, the moment it rises, just wash it off, do the business, and then you would have absorbed a good chunk of it by that point anyway, and you're going to be applying another dose 12 hours later too. So, and it's the same thing, if someone's like, oh, I went to the beach, want to go swimming, over time, you kind of realize that it's just like, look, it's absorbed for an hour. I've got more than probably more than 70, 80% of it in my blood at that point. just wash it off, put the next dose on 12 hours later and don't worry about it. But the transference is important because women need testosterone too, but they only need a tiny bit and they're very sensitive. It would be like if a woman, had progesterone and estrogen cream on her genitals and that transferred to the man, that would be a lot. And that would have a biological effect too. So I think it's always good to be safe and sorry and rinse it off. And some guys find that process and that part to be cumbersome and annoying. So do injections. But for other guys, they go, look, it's not a big deal. Have a quick shower, wash it off, sleep with underwear on, no problem. So that factor in terms of the lifestyle component is important because that's the stuff that matters day to day.
Exactly. And you said about an hour in, you're probably about 70 or 80% absorbed. Is that fair to say?
Definitely. Even probably more than that. What is testosterone optimization therapy? This is optimizing testosterone levels rather than simply just replacing them. The provider will need to intrinsically understand how testosterone works and how the human body works. So when you follow this process of optimizing testosterone gradually, it allows the patient to acclimatize